Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalarin and today I want to make a video talking about the Havoc Demon Hunter and giving you guys as much of a guidance as I can for PvP purposes, as well as introducing a lot of you to what a Demon Hunter is all about if you've never been able to play it on the beta. Chances are the patch has been pushed back, so as you watch this video, Demon Hunters are not released and they probably won't be released for quite a few hours, so it's a good time to watch this video and figure out what Demon Hunters are all about, because that's what I'm here to do, is help you guys out as best as I can, teach you the basics before you start playing. What is a Demon Hunter? We're going to be talking about the Havoc spec, which is the DPS spec of Demon Hunter. What are Demon Hunters all about? It's a very interesting agility based class. It has a lot of mobility. It has mechanic of building fury and spending fury, a lot like building rage and spending rage would be done for PvP as a warrior of some sort. And it has it's a very hyper aggressive spec. It doesn't really have that many defensives. It is very aggressive in terms of being offensive, and your mobility is your main survivability, as this class currently doesn't have a lot of healing. As you level to level 110, you unlock rest of your class traits, rest of your PvP talents, and class talents. You'll be able to do a lot more as a Demon Hunter, but currently at level 100 on the pre-patch for Legion, you are a little bit limited, but still I feel like it's a pretty solid spec and something you guys should definitely try. Anyway, what I'm going to do is with the video is start with the spell book, talk about the basic abilities and how would they be used for PvP, show off the mobility of a Demon Hunter and the importance that it has, then do a demonstration of your damage and how you would line up damage, as well as burst. I think I'll conclude the video with that. I'll try to be as quick as I possibly can. It's already been 2 minutes. Blade Dance is an ability that costs 35 fury, 8-second cooldown. It strikes all enemies for physical damage and gives you a chance to dodge by 100%. In most cases for BGs and PvP, you would use it to dodge certain attacks from enemies or certain CC, but you would have to be very careful when you use this ability, so it will take a lot of practice to use it. In BGs, if you have a bunch of enemies bunched up together, using Blade Dance is a great way to deal damage to multiple different targets. It's a pretty short cooldown, so you can use it kind of often. Blur is basically the bark skin of Demon Hunters, and all you get is a bark skin, which basically means it's a 1-minute cooldown and it's a short duration, and you can get this ability up maybe once, twice, 3 times in an arena on a good day, but it's a short term defensive. It reduces the damage you take by 35% and increases your dodge chance by 50%. So when you're using against melee, make sure to face them, because the way to dodge them is to be facing them, not to have them behind you, to the left of you, or to the right. An ability for Chaos Nova is your main stun. It is a 1-minute cooldown. It stuns enemies in an AoE area and deals a little bit of damage. It does cost fury, so you make sure you have to build up fury with this spec in order to be able to stun. Chaos Strike is your main fury spender, so you build fury and then you spend fury. Chaos Strike deals a lot of chaos damage, but you can see Blade Dance deals AoE damage instead for less fury. So it depends on different situations. If it's a single target that you are hitting, Chaos Strike is the best. If it's multiple targets, Blade Dance is good for a cooldown. Consume Magic is a very interesting ability. It has 20-yard range, second cooldown, which is your interrupt, and generates 50 fury in successful interrupt. So as a Demon Hunter, you want to make sure to land those kicks. Darkness is a very interesting ability for a defensive. It summons the darkness around you for 8 yards, cloaking all friendly targets, granting them a 20% chance to avoid damage from an attack and lasts 8 seconds. 3-minute cooldown, and I'm still not sure what's the best way to use this ability, but you would just basically use it defensively in an area of effect in hope and pray for RNG chance that you do dodge some of the or do avoid some of the enemy attacks that are coming at you. Demon's Bite is a way you build fury. It quickly attacks an enemy for 12k physical damage and generates between 20 to 30 fury. That is the ability you basically spam. You spam it whenever you need fury, and when you need to spend fury, you spam something like Chaos Strike or Blade Dance. It depends on the situation. Eye Beam is an ability where you build up 50 fury, and it's like your way of pseudo bursting. It has 20-yard range. It's basically start casting right in front of you wherever you're facing, and beam of chaos energy, hitting the enemy for 55k chaos damage as long as you're channel it. Eye Beam always crits, so this is the way for you to deal some serious burst without popping your main burst cooldown, which we'll talk about in a second. What's interesting about this ability, and let me go build up some fury to show you exactly how it functions, is you can change the direction of Eye Beam. So once you use it, for example right here, you can change the direction of where your Eye Beam goes by simply turning your mouse, or shouldn't be turning your keyboard, but I guess you could do that as well. So Eye Beam is an ability which will strike enemies in front of you for 20 yards, so you can turn it to cleave multiple different enemies and follow different enemies. So it's a very interesting ability for 50 Fury. So basically you would use it for burst. So you would line up something like a Chaos Nova into an I-Beam together once you have enough Fury. Fell Rush is an ability that basically has a 10-second recharge, 2 charges on it. Rush forward, incinerating enemies and dealing 19k, almost 20k chaos damage. This is one of the things about mobility about Demon Hunters, and I'll come back to mobility. You can use this offensively or defensively, as the distance you go for Fell Rush is pretty decent. It's basically like a roll for monks, but it's very crucial for you to keep track of the charges of Fell Rush. Glide. So basically, as you're falling as a Demon Hunter, you don't have to take fall damage ever. As you're falling down from heights of Orgrimmar, you can just hit spacebar to glide. And glide will actually take you in a direction of your choosing. So if you decide to change direction for any reason, you can as a Demon Hunter. Very interesting ability, and it's great for mobility opportunities. Let's say you're going to Warsaw Ghost, you pick up a flag, you're gliding down from the top of the building, you can actually get to the middle point of the BG before your glide is over. Imprison. Imprisons a demon for a minute. Damage will cancel the effect. Limit 1, 10-second cooldown. Not really useful currently for PvP. In the future it'll be more useful with the unlock of PvP talents, but basically you would use it on Warlock pets in order to stop them from dealing damage, and Warlocks currently are doing really well. So Demon Hunters might be the bane of Warlocks. Metamorphosis is an interesting ability which I am going to demonstrate. You leap forward into the air and land with an explosive force, dealing chaos damage and stunning enemies for 3 seconds in an 8-yard radius. Upon landing, you are transformed into a hellish demon for 30 seconds, greatly empowering your Chaos Strike, which is your main builder, or your main spender of Fury, as well as your Blade Dance, which also gets buffed as well, and you gain 25% haste. So let me show you what it looks like. So the distance is pretty far for this ability. Let me go hit the train dummy over there. It actually travels pretty far, stuns the enemy, and does empower your ability. So you get Annihilation instead, same cost but more damage, and Death Sweep, which is again same cost but far more damage than before, and a shorter cooldown as well because you are getting a ton of haste. The next ability is called Spectral Sight, which for with a 30-second cooldown for 10 seconds will allow you to see enemies and treasures through physical barriers as well as enemies that are stealth. So you see how I have a wall in front of me? If you use Spectral Sight, you'll see the enemies behind the wall and you'll be able to target them to figure out who is who and who is where. It does slow down your movement speed by a little bit for the duration of it in order to, I guess, account for, let's say, a rogue trying to outplay you by using stealth as they need to in order to be able to gain a foothold of you. So Demon Hunters can hunt for stealthy. Throw Glaive is an interesting ability. For 10-second cooldown, you throw a demonic glaive at the enemy, dealing 23k physical damage, and it can wreck onto different targets. It is on a global cooldown, so you would want to use it whenever you are not trying to build for Fury and then spam for Fury. So you would use it at distance, or to gap close with somebody, or to catch a rogue out of stealth after using Spectral Sight, and you throw a glaive at them to get them in combat, to get you in combat, and to get the rogue out of stealth. Vengeful Retreat is another ability that's all about mobility. You vengefully assault the enemy and vault away. Assaulted enemies take 4k physical damage and have movement speed reduced by 70% for 3 seconds. The ability looks something like this. It is another mobility ability. It's a lot like a disengage for hunters, with a little bit extra effect. As it reads right here, double jump is available to Demon Hunters. So if you jump once, like most games, as a Demon Hunter you can jump twice. So that also goes to your mobility. So for example, you would double jump off here and then glide down. So you gain yourself a little bit of extra altitude, and then using glide in order to gain yourself a little bit more distance as you're gliding downwards anywhere you go. So Demon Hunters have one of the best mobility in the game, and one of the best ways of getting around. Like for example, most classes can't get up on the roof here. Even as an Alpha Rogue I can't, because it says there's no path available. As a Demon Hunter though, you can. You just double jump on the roof and you're there. Your mastery is Demonic Presence, which increases your chaos damage, which most of your abilities deal chaos damage, increases the damage of your chaos abilities, as well as movement speed by 21%. You don't have any slows in this class, but you have a lot more mobility, so you should be utilizing it as best you can. Shattered Souls is an interesting ability. Killing an enemy sometimes creates a soul fragment that consumed. When you approach it, heals you for 25% of maximum health and generates 30 fury. That's not going to happen often in PvP unless you get a lot of killing blows, but you can't always guarantee that for PvP. Interesting, very interesting bonus for it. If Soul Fragment came from a demon, something Warlocks usually possess, you will deal 20% increased damage for 15 seconds. So if you see a Warlock running BGs with a Warlock pet, kill the pet, gain 20% damage, kill the Warlock, GG. Alright, now I want to talk a bit about mobility of Demonology Warlocks. You don't have a lot of defensives, you have blur, and you have darkness. But besides that, after you use both of them, you don't have any way of healing, you don't have any way to defend yourself, you don't have any ways of actively mitigating damage. Maybe with Blade Dance, but only for 1 second. So how do demon hunters get out of a tricky situation? You would use abilities of Vengeful Retreat and Fell Rush and Glide and Double Jump in order to get out of a bad situation. The further you can get away from enemies, the better. So that means you have to use Vengeful Retreat and carefully monitor charges of Fell Rush in order to see how to use them. As a demon hunter, you can get into a good situation, like let's say there's a healer over here in this hut and I need to go kill him real quick. Eventually retreat backwards, Fell Rush, I'm on the healer and I'm able to start additional damage. Same way can be done in defensive manner. As a demon hunter, to play defensively, you have to carefully monitor your movement based abilities in order to utilize them in different fashions. So you can either get into a PvP situation where you're about to score a kill, as well as vault away and gain some distance between you and your foe that's popping cooldowns at you. There's no point of fighting a foe if they have cooldowns because you're simply just going to take too much damage. So the best way to do it is to get away from them, avoid them, wait for the cooldowns to get away, and then come right back at them. That is one of the biggest things about Demon Hunter is the mobility. Mobility equals your survivability. So being able to work your mobility properly, to be able to watch your cooldowns for your Fell Rush and your Vengeful Retreat is probably the best thing to do as a Demon Hunter. Utilize mobility for survivability. Now let's talk real quick about talents, and there's not a lot of good talents. Fel Master is probably the best one on level 99 tree, and you have 2 trees by the way, because you're only at level 100. Fel Master increases the Fell Rush damage by 50% and grants 25 Fury. This allows Fell Rush to be used offensively and defensively, and it gives you Fury, which allows you to line up damage a little bit easier. Chaos Cleave makes you hit an additional target for 50% extra damage. You're not always going to have 2 different targets sitting together side by side as you approach them in PvP, so this is not the best and most viable choice. Blind Fury does increase the duration of your I-Beam, does increase your damage. I-Beam can be kicked though, so that is a bit of an issue. I mean, in certain cases, I-Beam can be really good for arena situations where you're trying to burst and trying to deal maximum damage, but I feel like Fel Mastery has an infinite potential to generate more Fury and deal a little bit extra damage. At level 100, I think Prepared is probably the best because it reduces the cooldown of Vengeful Retreat and makes it an offensive ability as well. Generates 40 Fury over 5 seconds if you damage at least 1 enemy with Vengeful Retreat. So you're able to use your mobility in an offensive manner. For example, I'm going to get on a train PvP dummy, I'm going to start attacking him, Vengeful Retreat, gain Fury, Fell Rush back at them to deal damage. Now I'm able to generate a lot of Fury on the target and start unloading a crap load of damage onto them. That is one of the advantages you can use as the Demon Hunter, so you're able to utilize defensive or mobility based abilities in an offensive manner by using certain talents to apply it for yourself. Demonic Blades replaces your Demon's Bite, basically making so your auto attacks have a 75% chance to deal additional shadow damage and generate Fury. I don't think it's reliable for PvP. I like being able to press Demon Bite in order to generate Fury, and knowing how much Fury I generate, I don't really trust 75% chance to deal additional damage and generate Fury. I think I'm gonna stay with Demon's Bite. Demonic Appetite. Chaos Strike has a chance to spawn unless the Soul Fragment consuming any Soul Fragment grants 30 Fury. Now, you just don't spawn these fragments as often as you would think with Chaos Strike. They don't actually specify just how often you spawn them, and the spawn rate is pretty low, and for PvP to be able to get a free Soul Fragment might not work the best. Maybe in a specific BG situations you go Chaos Cleave and Demonic Appetite and you cleave so you hit into targets and you have high chance to spawn Soul Fragments, but that is only in a perfect world, in a perfect situation. For the most part, I would say go Fel Mastery and Prepared so you can at least have a little bit more value for your damage based abilities, and as long as you have high value for your damage based abilities, then in most cases you should have your survivability squared away. Demon Hunters, how do you deal damage? You use Demon Bite to build Fury, and usually I try to build as much Fury as I can. Once you're almost capped full Fury or you're full Fury, you spend it with mostly Chaos Strikes. Is the enemy a melee that's trying to kill you and you need dodge? You would use something like Blade Dance on cooldown, and it deals damage to the enemy while making you dodge their attacks. Out of Fury, back to building it. Almost max Fury, time to spend it. Out of Fury, time to build it. Very simple. Are you trying to line up some damage pressure on a healer? Then you would use Chaos Nova and then I-Beam right after one another, so you stun the enemy and then you beam them in order to dish out as much damage as possible to force some pressure. Now, how do you burst with the Metamorphosis? It's really easy. I'm actually going to stop hitting this guy in a second because he's dodging a lot of my attacks. With Metamorphosis, you want to build up full Fury. You want to hit your enemy with Metamorphosis like that's trained dummy over there, and then do the same thing you were doing just now. build Fury, spend Fury, use other abilities if needed for Fury management. So here goes my burst. I'm using Annihilation, Demon's Bite, back to spending, back to building, let's build again, back to spending, back to spending, back to building, back to spending. Do you use I-Beam during Metamorphosis? I don't in most cases, because during Metamorphosis you have much more damage for Annihilation and Death Sweep, which are the buff versions of those abilities. So I try to utilize them while I have them, because I-Beam can be used at any moment without having to have Metamorphosis available. So that's basically how you PvP as a Demon Hunter. You utilize mobility for defensive and offensive measures, you build Fury, and you spend Fury, depending on what situation you're in. And a bunch of melee, use Blade Dance. Trying to line up damage on a healer to force pressure, combine Chaos Nova and I-Beam together in order to force trinkets out of players and force defensives out of them. Demon Hunters for the most part are very simplistic. As you can see, my bars don't have a lot of abilities that I'm working with, but each ability has a purpose of their own. So in most cases, just find the right purpose for the ability and try to work with what you've got, because you actually have a pretty decent toolkit, and that toolkit definitely does expand as you build your other class talents, as well as your honor talents, as well as your artifact weapon. All those abilities are well put together. It makes for a pretty coherent class, and even by the time after you're done building your whole PvP talent tree and your class talent tree, you're not going to have too many abilities still available for you to fill up your whole bar. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys in terms of playing Demon Hunter. I hope I was able to help you try to start playing Havoc Demon Hunter. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you, and thank you again. So I really do appreciate you watching the video. See you guys in the next one.